Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance was originally released on the Nintendo 3DS in Japan on March 29, 2012, and in America on July 31, 2012. The game takes place almost immediately after Recoded and follows Sora and Riku in taking the Mark of Mastery. As Sora and Riku's stories take place at the same time that you play alternately, I'll explain the plot the same way I did with Birth by Sleep. And if you thought that the plot of these games were confusing before, then you ain't gonna be ready for this. Let's get to it. The game starts off with a beautiful opening cutscene that recaps the last 10 years of Kingdom Hearts, as this game came out originally on the series' 10th anniversary. We see a POV shot of someone as Braig questions the person if this is what they really wanted, calling them Xehanort. We see a fading Evan and Nienzo. The person summons his Keyblade and Braig asks if he's regained his memories, or if he never lost them to begin with. The person then stabs Braig with a Keyblade and states that his name is Ansem. We see Sora and Riku on Destiny's Island, taking a raft off to sea. They encounter a giant Ursula and fight her. After defeating her, Ursula disappears and the raft gets destroyed by the waves, Sora and Riku singing. A keyhole appears before them and their Keyblades activate and unlock it. They fade into it as the figure in the brown robe watches on. Flashback. Yen Sid tells Sora and Riku about Xehanort. He tells them that he searches for the secrets of the heart's true essence and wants to recreate the Keyblade War, causing him to clash with many Keyblade wielders who protect the light. He says that, even though they are both quite skilled in using the Keyblade, they must pass the Mark of Mastery to become true masters, to relearn how to use the Keyblade by fighting with a clean slate. Sora says that him and Riku have already proved themselves, but Riku says that he can still sense darkness within him, and that this test might be the best way to see if he is truly worthy of the Keyblade. Sora says to test him too, confident that the both of them will pass. Sora wakes up in Traverse Town in his younger body, with new attire. He comes across a boy named Neku, who says that he is looking for his game partner. He shows Sora the time limit on his hand, it counting down. Sora decides to help him out and they search the town together. They are then attacked by creatures called Dream Eaters. They team up and defeat all of the Dream Eaters. Sora talks about the creature that Neku summoned to help him fight, and they are Dream Eaters too. Flashback. Yen Sid says that if they want to stop Xehanort's plan, they need the people that Mickey talked about in his letter. He says that they need to obtain a new power in order to save them. This power can be retrieved by unlocking the 7 sleeping keyholes. Yen Sid says that there are worlds that Sora saved from the darkness that never return completely. These worlds are still asleep and are hard to access. In these worlds are Dream Eaters, in which there are 2 kinds. Nightmares, which devour happy dreams, and spirits who consume the nightmares. Sora and Neku travel on as a black cloaked figure appears before them. Neku tells him that he brought him Sora and that he has to end up his end of the bargain too. The cloaked figure attacks, Neku saying that he wouldn't hurt Sora. Neku jumps and attacks the cloaked figure as Sora suddenly feels drowsy and passes out. Riku, in new attire as well, wakes up in Traverse Town. He comes across a strange boy named Joshua who tells him that this world is currently split into 2 parts. Joshua tells him that he can help Riku find Sora. All Riku has to do is help Joshua find his portal, a little girl named Rhyme. Joshua saying that Sora might be in the other half of the world. Riku begrudgingly agrees and the two travel together. Riku asks Joshua why the nightmares don't seem to be attacking Joshua, and he tells him that they only go after dreamers, which is funny because he says that he has a lot of dreams. Joshua talks about a friend of his who said that he never dreamed, and yet his dreams were the most powerful of them all, and that Riku kind of reminds him of him. Joshua teaches Riku how to summon a spirit as an older boy named Beat runs in and states that he's going to take Joshua down, and that when he does, him and Rhyme will get to go back to where they belong. Joshua says that Beat is just being tricked by the guy in the black coat, though Beat denies this. He sends his spirit after them, but Riku uses his to defeat it. Beat gives up, saying that all he wants to do is protect the one person that matters. As Riku says he feels the same, he becomes drowsy and passes out. Flashback. Yen Sid tells Sora and Riku about the Keyblade War, and how the source of the light of Kingdom Hearts was protected by its counterpart, the Keyblade. After the war, he says that the Keyblade was scattered and that the 2 elements that created it, one of darkness and one of light, shattered into 20 pieces, 7 of light and 13 of darkness. Sora wakes back up, finding the cloaked figure and Neku to be gone. Exploring new areas of the town, Sora comes across Rhyme, who seems to have lost her memories. Rhyme joins up with Sora as he says that maybe Neku can jog her memories. They find Neku, who apologizes for what he did. The guy in the black cloak said that he could send Neku and his partner back home. Sora says that it's okay and that they're friends. Rhyme then suddenly disappears as the black cloaked figure approaches them. Neku goes to attack, but is pushed aside. The figure summons a giant nightmare and Sora manages to defeat it. Sora then sees some faint images of Riku with a girl named Shiki. Neku regroups with Sora as Joshua appears before them with Rhyme. Joshua explains that Rhyme's dreams act as a portal that can travel between the two traverse towns. They see Riku being confronted by the black-cloaked figure who pulls off his hood, revealing him to be a boy with silver hair. Rhyme sees Beat, and Neku sees Shiki. Elsewhere, Riku wakes back up and sees that Beat and Joshua are gone. He sees Shiki being chased by some nightmares and rescues her. They introduce themselves and Shiki says that Riku has to protect her, as he is now her knight in shining armor. They travel deeper in the town as Shiki runs off and screams. Riku runs after her and comes across the black-cloaked figure. The figure questions Riku on how he got there and how Riku is not aware of what is happening, and that he'll wander in this place forever. Beat arrives and tells him that the figure tricks Shiki into bringing Riku to him in exchange for sending her back to her world. The figure pulls off his hood and summons a giant nightmare, which Riku defeats. Afterwards, images of Sora, Joshua, Neku, and Rhyme appear in front of them, Beat being frustrated that he can't reach his little sister. Once both sides of the world are completed, Joshua explains to Sora and Riku that his four friends' existence has currently ended in their world. Joshua, wanting to help them, brought them to Traverse Town, thinking the pieces of their hearts might make them whole again. Joshua talks about how he was surprised when he found out that dreams take bodily form in this world, and by linking their dream pieces back together, he can make them exist again, giving them another chance. Riku says that it can't be that easy, but Joshua argues that, while by ourselves, we are no one. But it's when other people look at us and see someone, that's the moment we each start to exist. He then gives his thanks to Sora and Riku for helping him reconnect the four of them back together.
Joshua, just who are you?
Let's say, a friend.
Together, Sora and Riku use their Keyblades to unlock the keyhole. Flashback. Yensid tells them that he will return them to the Destiny's Island before it was swallowed by the darkness and plunged in the sea. If Sora and Riku manage to unlock the 7 sleeping keyholes, obtain the new power, and return safely, he will dub them true Keyblade Masters. Sora arrives in La City des Chelos, I totally botched that name world, I apologize, and teams up with Quasimodo to save Esmeralda from Judge Claude Frollo and a giant nightmare. At the end, Sora talks about Quasimodo's heart being free from the walls that Frollo put around it.
Hypocrite. You are the one who has made your heart a prison.
You again! What are you talking about?
Even if you are not the prisoner.
After the figure disappears, Sora dwells on these words and unlocks the keyhole. Riku arrives in La City des Chelos, oh my god, I am bad at pronouncing other languages, and tries to figure out the darkness that is in Frollo's heart. While doing so, he chases after a giant nightmare and comes across the cloaked figure again, along with Ansem, Seeker of Darkness. Ansem talks about how he embraced the darkness, and unless Riku learns to do the same, his story will end just like Frollo's, with death. Riku proudly proclaims that he walks the road to dawn. The cloaked figure and Ansem dismiss this, walking away. After defeating the giant nightmare, Riku comments how he is confident he won't fall into darkness. He unlocks the keyhole and travels on. On the clock tower, Roxas asks Axel if he forgot the promise he made to him and Xion, to bring them back. We then get a POV shot as Lee wakes up in Hollow Bastion computer room, along with Dylan, Alias, Evan, and Yenzo. Alias and Yenzo being the only ones waking up though. Lee looks at himself in the mirror and realizes that they are all people again, but that only the ones who originally joined the organization here, so Xehanort doesn't count.
But where are Braig and Isa?
Sora finds himself in a new version of Space Paranoids, the Grid. Realizing that Tron has been turned into the evil Rinsler, he teams up with Korra to try and turn him back. On the way, Sora comes across the cloaked figure again. He talks about how people like to keep the most precious memories in the back of their mind when they're safe. Or in Sora's case, the most precious hearts. Xemnas then appears, much to the surprise of Sora. Xemnas talks about how his old master, Ansem the Wise, found an old system and made a copy of its master control program to serve his own ends, the Grid being the original data of that system. He then asks Sora if all of the experiences he's gone through might just be copies of someone else's. As Sora says that they do belong to him, Xemnas says that he should make sure, since he has been chosen. As the figure tells Sora that this world is not a sleeping world and that he has already wandered off the path, Sora is blown away. Later on, Tron sacrifices himself to save Sora. Sora then unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Riku arrives on the Grid and helps Sam escape from Clu and make it back to the outside world. He later unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Back in Hollow Bastion, Lee looks around the castle but couldn't find either Braig or Isa. He regroups with Ienzo and Alias, who tell him that Dylan and Evan have woken up, but are still unstable and resting. Ienzo explains that when someone who has lost their heart is recompleted, they should return to the place where it happened, but if that world is unavailable, then they would find refuge in Traverse Town. Ienzo thinks that Braig and Isa might be there, but Axel dismisses it and says that he'll just have to bring them back himself. Sora arrives in a new world called Prankster's Paradise. He runs into Jiminy Cricket, though he doesn't seem to know who Sora is. Flashback. Yen Sid tells Sora and Riku that in the sleeping worlds, real time does not flow. So if the two of them run into familiar faces, they need to know that they are just figments of the dream. Sora decides to help Jiminy find Pinocchio. Sora saves Pinocchio from some Dream Eaters, and comes across Xemnas and the cloaked figure again. Xemnas says that Pinocchio is like a nobody, one who lives without a heart. But Sora says that Pinocchio does have a heart, and if he can, shouldn't the nobodies be able to too? Xemnas says that this might be true, but says to not forget that Sora is not so different from nobodies. Pinocchio and Jiminy become trapped in Monstro and Sora washes up on a shore. He summarizes that after this, the world gets dragged into darkness and Monstro gets cast into the sea between worlds. Pinocchio ending up in Traverse Town and Jiminy in Disney Castle, that being where they meet for real. Sora unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Riku travels to Monstro and helps Geppetto find Pinocchio. Finding him, Riku comes across a version of himself in a black coat. Riku saying that that was his darkness, and that it always follows him in a different form. First the Seeker of Darkness, a replica version of his darkness, and now, himself. Riku later helps reunite Pinocchio and Geppetto, unlocks the keyhole, and travels on. Back in the mysterious tower, Mickey comes to the conclusion of something. Before he can tell it to the others, Maleficent's Raven arrives with a letter and Queen Minnie's crown. The letter says that Maleficent has kidnapped Minnie and tells Mickey to return to Disney Castle. Mickey, Donald, and Goofy head out as Yen Sid feels that this did not happen by coincidence. Sora ends up traveling back to Traverse Town and comes across Joshua. Joshua informs Sora that Riku has arrived as well in the other Traverse Town. He also says that Neku and the others all found their game partners. Joshua tells Sora that they need to beat the Reaper's game by completing a series of missions. However, the mission that they are on right now faces them against a powerful nightmare that's giving them trouble. Joshua asks Sora for his help, which Sora gladly agrees. Sora meets up with Neku and Shiki and helps them defeat a bunch of nightmares, the main one running off. Joshua arrives and tells him that the nightmare has gone to the other Traverse Town. The plan is to trap it in one place in both sides of the world and finish it off for good. Riku ends up in Traverse Town with Joshua there waiting for him. He tells Riku about the nightmare and Riku agrees to help. Before Riku heads out, Joshua tells him that he thought that the two Twilight Towns were parallel worlds, but he might be wrong about that. Joshua tells Riku that when Shiki went to be with Neku on one side, and Rhyme went to be with Beat on the other side, the timers on their hands were different. Joshua says that if they were parallel worlds, time would be flowing the same in both, but since they're not, the worlds must be different.
It's like the same world imagined by two people. What does that tell you? That we're in...
The dream.
Riku heads off to help Rhyme and Beat. He catches up to them and helps them defeat a bunch of nightmares, the main one getting away. They manage to corner it, but it teleports to the other Traverse Town. But they're not worried, since they've got allies on the other side. Riku unlocks another keyhole and says his goodbye to everyone. Back in the other Traverse Town, Sora fights against nightmare bosses that he's fought before. Unfortunately, the main nightmare manages to transport it to a different world entirely. Sora says that he'll find the nightmare and destroy it, so that they can complete their mission. Shiki and Neku tell Sora that once he finds Riku, they should meet them again in Shibuya. Come on, Square Enix, make another crossover happen already! Sora unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Mickey, Donald, and Goofy confront Maleficent and Pete in Disney Castle. Maleficent says that she is familiar with Xehanort, who originally told her about worlds that were outside of her own, and about the 7 Princesses of Heart. But as she failed in conquering the worlds at that time, she wants to devise a different plan. Maleficent demands that they give her the data for all the worlds. When they refuse, Maleficent attacks them, but a Chokran blocks her attack. Minnie uses this distraction to get free from Pete. Maleficent and Pete run off, saying that they'll be back soon. The rescuer retrieves his weapons, and Mickey gives his thanks to Axel.
Axel didn't. My name is Lee. Got it memorized?
Sora arrives in a new world called the Country of the Musketeers and comes across a past version of Mickey in disguise. Together they, Donald, and Goofy team up and save Minnie from Pete, Riku helping them on the other side. Sora unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Riku arrives in the Country of the Musketeers and helps Minnie stop Pete's plan in defeating Mickey, Donald, and Goofy. He unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Back in the mysterious tower, Lee converses with Yen Sid. Yen Sid saying that he had sensed something the moment that Sora and Riku had departed, and that Xehanort must have known what they were doing. Mickey worries about Sora and Riku, but Yen Sid says that all of his attempts to locate the two of them have failed. Because Lee is here, they summarize that the organization's members are complete people again, and that Xehanort will be no different. Yen Sid tells Lee that the road he is heading towards will not be easy. Lee dismisses this, ready to jump right in. Sora arrives in a new world called Symphony of Sorcery and comes across another past version of Mickey, this being when he trained under Yen Sid. Sora agrees to help wake up Mickey, the cause being the nightmare from Traverse Town. Sora also has to find a sound idea to face the nightmare. On the way, Sora comes across the cloaked figure again, who comments on how beautiful this world is. Almost like a dream. When Sora asks why he's been following him around, the figure questions Sora if this is all a part of his test, but it will all be over soon. The figure walks away and Sora finds the sound idea. He combines it with Riku's sound idea to obtain a gate to face against the nightmare, defeating it for good, also managing to wake Mickey up. He unlocks a keyhole and travels on. Riku arrives in Symphony of Sorcery and goes to help Mickey by finding a sound idea as well. Finding it, Riku comes across the cloaked figure again, who comments how the Keyblade had originally chose Riku, but since he had succumbed to the darkness, the Keyblade passed on to Sora instead. The figure leaves as Chernobog appears and Riku defeats it in one of the most underwhelming boss fights in this entire series. Riku uses both his and Sora's sound ideas to wake Mickey back up. He unlocks the keyhole and travels on. Back in the Mysterious Tower, Yen Sid says that if Xehanort knew what they were planning, he would still need to have been back in the place and time when the Destiny's Island had fallen into darkness. Otherwise, Sora and Riku would have been beyond his reach. Goofy then wonders if Xehanort did the same thing Sora and Riku did to start their test and jump through time. Yen Sid says that for that to work, a version of himself would have had to exist at both source and destination, and not even Xehanort can transport his whole body across vast reaches of time. However, Mickey says that Xehanort did give up his whole body, his Heartless going on to possess Riku at the time. This surprises Yen Sid, and Mickey decides to head out to help Sora and Riku.
Follow the hearts, and you'll find the way. That's something Master Aqua told me once.
Now strap in everyone, cause this is where shit gets really confusing, and that's saying a lot considering what this game's story has already dumped on us. Sora finds himself arriving in the world that never was, at the Memory Skyscraper. Sora is confused as he's already unlocked the 7 sleeping keyholes, so he should be awake and back in the real world. Braig suddenly appears, much to the surprise of Sora. Braig tells Sora that they brought him to this place and that they've been following Sora since he started this journey. He explains that Sora was able to go back in time to just before his home became a sleeping world because a past version of himself already existed there. But since the guy in the black robe was there, Ansem Seeker of Darkness, he was there to make sure that Sora ended up here now. Braig tells Sora that he is not waking up, that this is now his reality. When Sora summons his Keyblade, Braig comments that he's still got the angry look down. A bunch of cloaked figures surround Sora, including the main one. Sora then starts to feel drowsy and passes out. We then get a series of POV scenes through the eyes of Sora. On Destiny's Island, Sora and the cloaked figure watch as Ansem in the brown robe approaches a past version of the cloaked figure. The young man talks about how back then, he had no idea that he was talking to the version of himself that cast his heart away, Ansem Seeker of Darkness. That's right, this mysterious figure is a young version of Xehanort. I should also mention that young Xehanort is the mysterious figure that Terra Aqua Reventus fought in Birth by Sleep. Ansem appears in front of Sora and he passes out again. We then see Sora and young Xehanort when Destiny's Island was being destroyed. They watch Sora chase after Ansem in the secret spot. Young Xehanort explains that in order to move through time, you must leave your body behind. So when Ansem set young Xehanort on his way, he placed himself here for when the time was right, this causing all of these events to be set into motion. Sora questions if Xehanort knew that all this would happen, which young Xehanort denies.
But remember, Ansem possessed Riku and saw his experiences in real time.
So? That could only tell him so much. How did he know I would be here today?
Simple.
Kairi!
Sora passes out again and wakes up falling from the sky, with a bunch of other Soras falling with him. He lands in Traverse Town and him and young Xehanort see the different Soras wandering the town. Young Xehanort tells Sora that he's been here many times. His first journey, his voyage through memories, in the day escape, and in his dreams, happening again and again, almost in the same way. Sora sees Mickey running through the town. He spots Donald and Goofy, who look up to the sky and see a star blinking out. They walk away as Sora follows them. Pluto then passes him and Sora follows him instead, but before he can get anywhere far, Sora passes out again, hearing Riku's voice. He wakes back up in the world that never was as Mickey, Donald, and Goofy pass him, Sora looking like he does in the real world. As he chases after them, he comes across Naminé. Sora approaches her and tells her he has a message for her, but before he can say anything, Naminé turns into Xion, Sora not knowing who this is, but Sora ends up crying. Xion pulls up her hood and runs away, Sora hearing Riku's voice again. He catches up to her but finds that it is Roxas instead. Roxas tells Sora that this could have been the other way around, but that it has to be Sora. Roxas explains that there are so many hearts connected to Sora, and because Roxas is Sora, Sora can feel how he felt. Sora denies this though, saying that they are not the same, that Roxas is himself. Roxas is deserving as much as anyone to be his own person. Happy with this, Roxas takes Sora's hands and transmits all of his memories into Sora. Feeling so much pain, Sora asks what they want him to see, Riku's voice calling out again. Sora travels on and comes across Riku and Kairi. However, the two of them suddenly turn into Terra and Aqua. They call Sora Ventus, and Sora even starts to look like him. Turning back into Riku and Kairi, the two walk away as Sora chases after them, engulfed by a bright light. Sora remembers a memory of when him and Riku met Aqua when they were young. Aqua then turns into Ansem suddenly and Sora is pushed back. He crashes back into the world again right next to Braig, saying that they put Sora in a second sleep. Braig tells Sora to look at his heart for the answers, Sora's heart aching. Braig thanks Sora's heart for bringing Sora into their clutches, also saying that they steer us wrong every time. Sora says that Braig knows, because they all have hearts, including Axel, Roxas, Naminé, and the other girl. Sora felt what Roxas felt, how they felt so many different emotions together.
You have to have a heart to cry.
Braig says that Sora is right as Xemnas arrives, saying that a heart is never lost for good. He explains that one can banish the heart from the body, but the body will try to replace it the first chance it gets. That's why Xemnas knew that even after they were divided into Heartless and Nobodies, it was just a temporary separation. Sora demands to know why they lied to everyone in the organization and tell him that they had no hearts. Braig explains that Xehanort's plan was to round up a bunch of empty husks, hook them up to Kingdom Hearts, and then fill them up with the same exact heart in mind. As in, they were going to turn all of the members into Xehanort.
Make more Xehanorts? You tricked your friends to... But you, aren't you scared of just turning into someone else?
Me? I'm already half Xehanort.
Xemnas then explains that for one reason or another, both of the originally chosen members were inadequate. Sora gets angry and says that they shouldn't treat people's hearts like objects, and they are what make him strong. Braig agrees, saying that the only reason Sora made it here is because of the people who came before him.
My friends, they are my power!
Braig doesn't understand how Sora can still have so much hope and leaves. Xemnas then attacks Sora, but Sora manages to defeat him. Xemnas disappears as Sora starts to fall into darkness. Young Xehanort appears before him and tells Sora that he'd lost the minute he started. He explains that it wasn't the sleeping keyholes that guided Sora, instead going on the path that they laid out for him. The sigil on Sora's chest being the proof. Young Xehanort explains that the sigil, the X, told them where Sora was at all times, also that they need Sora, or what's going to be left of him, the 13th Dark Vessel. Young Xehanort explains that all of his selves throughout time will gather here, so that they can welcome Sora as their new member. He tells Sora that he will return to his own time, so that he can grow into the man that becomes all of the others. He also says that when he returns, he will forget everything that happened in his journey through his own time. But there will still be something that lingers in his heart, which will lead him to seek the outside world. Sora completely fades into darkness and we see him on an organization chair. As Sora continues to fall into darkness, a light surrounds him and Sora is encased in Ventus's armor. Riku then arrives in the world that never was and travels through it. He comes across a sleeping Sora trapped in the darkness. A black cloaked figure appears before him, revealing itself to be a nightmare. He defeats a nightmare and attempts to wake Sora up. And some voice is heard and he asks Riku why he hasn't returned to his reality, saying that the world Riku is in right now is a dream of a dream, a twofold nightmare. In his whole journey, Riku has been inside of Sora's dreams. Riku falls into darkness and comes across Ansem. Ansem explains that at the start of their test, when him and Sora struck out from the island, Riku saw Ansem there dressed in a robe, so without knowing it, Riku dove into Sora's dreams, becoming a Dream Eater spirit. Riku says that Ansem reminds him of a man who he promised to keep a secret to when he was little, and that it was because of him that Riku originally wanted to seek the outside world. Riku and Ansem then fight. Riku manages to defeat him and makes it out of the darkness. Riku then finds himself in the real world that never was and heads to the castle to save Sora. He makes it inside and finds Sora, but young Xehanort prevents him from getting any farther. He explains that they originally had their sights on making Riku a vessel, but as the Keyblade did, they eventually decided to move down the list, also saying that Roxas was a possible candidate. All the chairs are then suddenly filled with members of the new Organization 13, Ansem Seeker of Darkness, Xemnas, and Break included. Mickey then arrives and uses a spell to temporarily stop time. However, young Xehanort seems to be able to break free from the spell. He teleports Riku elsewhere and fights him. Riku manages to defeat young Xehanort and is transported back. However, Mickey's spell then wears off when the true Master Xehanort arrives. He proudly says that all of this was decided. Xehanort explains how he once tried to create his own pure light and darkness through Ventus and Vanitas, the forge of the Keyblade, but that attempt failed. Mickey says that he should have seen all of this coming, back when Maleficent started gathering the Princesses of Heart. Xehanort explains that he used Maleficent to find the 7 pure lights, while he himself found 13 vessels to fill with pure darkness. And though Sora managed to stop him on both counts, Xehanort says that he has not abandoned his ambitions, with 7 Guardians of Light and the 13 Seekers of Darkness. Mickey counts Keyblade wielder, including him, Sora, Riku, and his 3 missing friends, making 6. However, he realized that he still needs a 7th, and that currently, Terra and Sora belong to Xehanort, making Mickey 3 Guardians short. Xehanort then goes to transport his darkness into Sora, Riku and Mickey trying to stop him. However, Ansem and Xemnas manage to hold the 2 of them back. But before Xehanort can accomplish his goal, Lee suddenly arrives and saves Sora. Another member of the new organization summons his weapon and attacks Lee, revealing himself to be Aiza. Lee manages to break free and join the others. Ansem summons his guardian to stop them from leaving, but Donald and Goofy arrive using the Star Shard and defeat it. The 13 members then start to disappear as they are out of time, but Xehanort says that the gathering of 7 and 13 will happen soon. The group heads to the mysterious tower, but finds that Sora is still sleeping. Yensid explains to Riku that he has acquired the power to free a heart from its sleep, and since Riku unlocked the keyholes in Sora's dreams, he should have the power to awaken Sora's heart. Riku decides to travel to Sora's heart to wake him up. Riku travels to Sora's dive to the heart and comes across Ventus's armor, who's been turned into a nightmare. He defeats the nightmare, unlocks the keyhole with Sora's keyblade, and dives deeper into Sora's heart. He finds himself on Destiny's Island and comes across Roxas, who asks him,
What is it that you're so afraid of?
Riku comes across Ventus, who he doesn't recognize, asking him,
What is the one thing you care about more than anything else?
Lastly, he comes across Xion, who he also doesn't know. She asks him,
Riku, what do you wish?
Now if you remember from way back in the beginning of Kingdom Hearts 1, these 3 questions are very similar to the questions that Sora was asked in that game. After answering all 3 questions, Riku finds a letter in a bottle and is approached by Ansem the Wise. Ansem explains that he digitized himself and his research and hid them within Sora, to give them a clue to help find themselves or their lost friends. Ansem explains that Sora possesses the ability to see the good before the bad with everyone's heart. When he sees the heart in something, it then becomes real, and that he has the power to mend a connection that's been broken. Ansem then tells Riku that Sora has waken up, and Riku heads home, thanking Ansem the Wise before he goes. Riku wakes up again in the mysterious tower, and Sora excitedly hugs him, thanking Riku for saving him. Later, Yensid tells Sora and Riku that they both performed well in this test, but only one of them managed to unlock the final keyhole. Thus, he makes Riku the new Keyblade Master. Sora happily congratulates Riku in disbelief, but happy. Lee says that he'll catch up to them soon, wanting to become a Keyblade Master too. After all, he came here to learn how to wield one, but he just couldn't materialize one in time.
Must be in the snap of the wrist or something.
Sora heads off, saying that he has one last thing to take care of. The others saying goodbye, hoping that he comes back safe. After the credits, Sora arrives back in the sleeping Traverse Town and comes across all of the Dream Eater spirits, thanking all of them for helping him. Meanwhile, in the Chamber of Waking, Ventus smiles. Having completed certain requirements, the player unlocks a secret ending. The Darkness Awakens. We see young Xehanort on the beaches of Destiny's Island, saying how small his world is. The light in the darkness. Aqua waits on the beaches in the realm of darkness, waiting for Sora and Riku. Leads to the last key. We learn from Donald and Goofy that Lee went back to Radiant Garden, and that Yensid sent Riku on a mysterious errand. Inside the tower, Yensid says that they must form their 7 Guardians of Light to protect the 7 princesses from Xehanort. In the end, there will be a clash between light and darkness, them not being able to stop the triggering of another Keyblade War.
So we're missing one Guardian of Light. Riku! You're back!
That's right. Master Yensid. I brought you the guest you asked for, but You never said why.
Huh? Wow!
I have come to learn that you too can wield a Keyblade. I am glad you are here.
Now there's one scene that I wanted to save till the end, and it actually comes from the ending of Recoded. A new ending was added to the 2.5 HD remix version of the game, but as it contains spoilers for Dream Drop Distance, I didn't want to talk about it till now. We see Evan, Yenzo, Alias, Dylan, Lee, and Isa all passed out on the floor. Braig and young Zane are conversing around them. Braig says that everything is on track now, and that he's impressed with how Xehanort can see into minds and how nobody knows what he really wants. He questions young Xehanort if even he knows what's going on in his older self's head. Young Xehanort tells him that he will go wherever he is destined to go. He talks about how every Keyblade master passes on a Keyblade to their apprentices. This eventually caused more and more Keyblades to be forged and handed down, and out of all of them, the one that belongs to Xehanort is the most ancient of them all. He says that will soon be his destiny, but is not yet a reality for him. Braig says that this is all probably connected to the Keyblade War. He dismisses it though and says that he has plans of his own.
So, which poor soul will it be?
And that's it everyone, Kingdom Hearts Dream Drop Distance, the final main game in the series until Kingdom Hearts 3, and what a doozy this one was. So many questions answered, the final battle set up, and it was both amazing and extremely confusing. But are there still questions? Of course there are. Will Mickey be able to gather 7 Guardians of Light in time? And will they be able to stop Xehanort and the new Organization 13? Can Lee save Isa with his new power? And will they eventually be able to save Terra Aqua and Ventus? Lastly, how did Xehanort manage to predict everything? Is this going to be some dumb Aizen thing from Bleach, or is there an actual explanation? Well, you'll have to wait till Kingdom Hearts 3 comes out till you find the answers. But in the meantime, stay tuned for Kingdom Hearts Unchained. See you then.